Hello, folks. Just want to cover a few quick things this week while you're getting to work on your case study papers. First off, I want to go and do a little bit of recap from the last couple of weeks, and I want to give you another example for the case study paper, and then give you just that final reminder to take care of yourselves this week. So, let's look back a little bit. I want to go all the way back to the McEwen article from 2 weeks ago. It was the online versus offline reestablish relationships article. And I'm set up outside to sort of take you through this example a little bit and then work us into impression management. So the McEwen article talked about how people establish relationships online and online, and how if those relationships proceeded into offline settings where we actually met, it would be a little bit easier for us to get along because we've already set that up. But I also think it alludes to the fact that as we work through online relationships, when we take time to get to know each other and build up interpersonal relationships like we were talking about that week, there's more things that we can do when we're interacting online. Now, for instance, I think it would be difficult for me to post up my very first video of the semester outside in a hoodie because it's a little bit cold. It's the shrubbery behind me, because you're going to look at it and think to yourself, here is this guy that's supposed to lead us through the semester wearing a hoodie out in the cold. What's wrong with him? And I could make that worse in a number of ways. I could be sitting here with my sunglasses on, even though it's not really that bright. I could have this stocky cap on, where I, potentially look a little bit goofy to post up something for discussions, or I can really go all out, and I can post something wearing this gigantic dinosaur mask, which I may be able to get away with if I've really established a relationship with you and it's October, where we're very close to Halloween. However, it's difficult to make those things work in this particular setting if we haven't strongly established that online interpersonal relationship, which I think can lead us into our discussion of impression management. First and foremost, I probably wouldn't want to start any semester in something like that because I want to give you some air of professional impression management. Now, as we work through the semester, you're starting to get to know a little bit about myself, getting to know about your classmates. I mean, we saw a lot of cool things in our videos this week. We saw some very interesting personal backgrounds where we're learning really about each other. And you've already learned a few things about myself. I encourage you to be outside and enjoy weather. You know that I like to fish. So I think that being here in this setting now actually has some context that's not going to necessarily collapse like they were talking about in the Davison and Jurgensen article this last week, which I think is a fabulous article, and I hope that many of you bring that in for your case study. So just some thoughts on impression management and our relationship. Now, I want to take impression management and context collapse and give you just another example for your case study paper. And let me reiterate, as I've said before and I'll say again, you don't have to take my ideas, folks. I do want these papers to be really personal to yourselves. I hope you'll find some stuff that you're interested in discussing. But here's just another example, and I'll kind of work you through the steps of the case study paper itself, beginning with the page number. So another reminder, we need 4 to 5 double-spaced pages. Now, I get that writing papers can sometimes be a difficult, laborious task, but if you've been keeping up in the forums, you're already writing 2 to 4 pages every week. So this is not a huge step forward, particularly when you consider that there's no reading, so you don't have to worry about 40 pages of material to digest. There's no quiz, so you don't have to be writing a bunch of things down and really focusing in on ideas, try and get your quiz stuff right. And then there's no discussion, which is, again, takes up a lot of time too, because you got to read through stuff, you got to post your material, you got to make sure it makes sense in what I'm looking for. So you have a copious amount of time to work through these materials. And you want to begin with an introductory paragraph that sets us up, gives us a preview of what's coming there, gives us a good solid thesis statement. Look back at the last couple of videos and do think about that thesis-oriented writing, right? I hope you'll jump onto. And then we move into an analysis of a case. Now we need to find some particular thing that has happened within computer-mediated communication that applies to our course readings. And I want to talk about impression management and the AshleyMadison.com scandal. Now, I realize I'm walking a thin rope here because, like I spent last week talking about that weird Florida Marlins foursome tweet, and now I'm going to talk about the adultery website. I assure you that I'm not trying to pump sex ideas onto you guys constantly. I just think these are really interesting collapses in context and impression management and interpersonal relationships. Now, as most of you are aware, and if you're not, you can look this up, ashleymadison.com is a website that's geared towards adultery, where married adults can meet other married adults or unmarried adults, I suppose, and anybody could sign up for it, to have intimate relationships behind their spouse's back. Recently, 2 months ago was it? But anyways, recently, the whole website was hacked, and the entire user base was taken from ashleymadison.com and then uploaded onto the internet later on, so that we can search through and see who all was on there. And if you want to go and look at maybe the Josh Duggar issue, because that guy was on there and he's got all sorts of things going on, there's certainly some things to be said about impression management. But I actually want to delve back into the site itself. Now, I can't explain the mathematical formulas behind it, but a couple of people that are much smarter than myself in this regards went through and they did all these IP address checks and pulled out a number of various formulas to determine what number of profiles were real and fake. So let's look at the numbers very quickly here. There were 36 million users on ashleymadison.com. 5.5 million of those users were registered as female, so that leaves a large number of male users. When somebody took all those female users and ran them through the algorithm, what they found was only 20,000 profiles were real. 20,000 out of 5.5 million. Now, go back to the male side, there's 30.5 million male profiles. We found that about 1 million of them were fake, so there's still like 29 million real male profiles there. So when a man on that site messaged a woman, they had less than a 0.01% chance of actually messaging a real woman. And I'm sort of reminded of that joke where, you see the two people talking in the background of a movie or in the forefront, whatever, and one says to the other, if you were the last person on Earth, yeah, maybe something would happen. And the second one responds, so you're saying there's a chance. And that's what I think's happening with the Ashley Madison scandal there. Like, any man that's on there has a chance, of course, of messaging a real woman, but it's incredibly remote at this point. And until these numbers came to the forefront, Ashley Madison had been able to manage the impression that these things could actually happen between users. But suddenly, we've stripped away the illusion. And more information keeps coming out. You can do a quick Google search and you can find that people were hired to create fake profiles, that a number of pornography websites and escort services had profiles up trying to elicit people to go and spend more money with their systems. And so the managing of the impression of the website completely collapsed as that context went flying out the window. And so we have there a very simple way to go through a page to a page and a half of a case analysis, where we can look at what happened. We can take readings from what we've done here in class, and do remember that you have to bring in at least 2 outside readings. I went through that in the other video, which should be posted down below this one again. So you need a number of readings that come and bring in this information. And then we go and you need a page and a half to 2 pages worth of recommendations. And this is where things can get really interesting, because there's not really any right or wrong answers here. What there are answers that are good when you take the time to really bring in ideas from your readings, from what we've talked about in the forums. Your own opinions can work in here too, but back up what you have to say and work through those 2 to 3 analytical, insightful suggestions as to what could have been done to mitigate these circumstances. Again, you do not have to use my example, but if you want to write about any of these things that I've talked about in my videos, I'm perfectly fine with that. The reality situation is if all 25 of you wrote about the same thing, it would be really easy for me to grade. But at the same time, perfectly fine. Like, I'm interested in reading about what you're interested in, because the more I find out about that, the easier it is for me to go back and create questions and do discussion stuff that makes sense to you. And finally, you need a paragraph there at the end that sort of brings things together. So, link up the introduction and the conclusion again, because that creates a nice little bit of psychological unity for the reader. You need that thesis at the beginning and show how you proved the thesis, or how you completed all the steps in the conclusion, and you should be fine. Now, last little bit. Once again, as I said in one of the first videos of the semester, take care of yourselves. Know who you are as a student. Now, I can tell you from experience, every semester somebody emails me about 20 minutes before deadline asking for more time because they haven't started the paper. Get yourself started on this early. Set a writing goal for the week. Do 100 words a day, 200 words a day. About 200 is going to get you a page in double-spaced typing. So if you can go through a page a day, you're going to be in great shape by Friday. I'm happy to look at these things a little bit. If you do send me a copy of your paper, please send me specific questions rather than a general "what do I need to fix" email, because that doesn't tell me anything about what you're worried about, and it creates actually a weird amount of stress for me because I don't know exactly what to comment for you, because I may say this is not what I would do, and you could take that completely out of context. So give me something to work with so that we don't deal with that context collapse in our email. Happy to talk with you via Skype, FaceTime, etc. Just get in touch with me and let me know what you need. Otherwise, good luck this next week, folks. When you're done, reward yourself. Go to ice cream, go get a beer, go get a soda, whatever it is that you like to do once you've accomplished something, reward yourself and make that happen. All right. Well, I will be around via email if you need anything. Otherwise, I will see you in the forums next week.